Red alert for the Saurashtra and Kutch coast in Gujarat. Cyclone Biparjoy is expected to hit different parts of the country, and union and state ministers have reviewed preparedness. There was a high-level meeting held in the capital, chaired first by Home Minister Amit Shah, who has directed all stakeholders and officers to ensure zero casualties and minimize the possible damage. Subsequently, a high-level meeting was also chaired by Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Gujarat Chief Minister Bhupendra Patel and MPs from 8 districts in the state that could possibly be impacted by the cyclone have participated in these meetings as well. Now, the cyclone is expected to cross the Gujarat coast on the 15th of June. The Met Department has been providing regular updates about the cyclonic storm that's gushing through the Arabian Sea. Parts of the Saurashtra-Kutch region have received heavy rains accompanied by strong winds. The Gujarat government has commandeered boats and ships and evacuated almost 38,000 people to safety. This will be the third cyclone to hit the western state of Gujarat since 1965.
साइक्लोन अभी जोर पकड़ रहा है। कल साइक्लोन का लैंडफॉल है जो कि सर्किल एरिया में कच्छ के आसपास है। अभी जो विंड स्पीड है पहले से बढ़ गई है। पहले 20 से 30 किलोमीटर पर आवर की थी और अभी 50 के आसपास हो गई है। और बारिश भी अभी हेवी रेनफॉल भी यहाँ शुरू हो चुका है। तो हम लोगों ने NDRF हम लोग कल पहुँचे हैं यहाँ पे। हम लोगों ने अपना एरिया रेकी करना शुरू कर दिया है। जो लो लाइन एरिया है वहाँ हमने अपना रेकी किया है। वहाँ वाले लोगों को पहले ही शेड्यूल में इवैक्यूएट कर दिया है।
कल शाम से जो साइक्लोन की डायरेक्शन में चेंजेस हुए हैं, साइक्लोन अभी पहले जो द्वारका से ज़्यादा नज़दीक से जाने वाला था, अब वो थोड़ा वेस्टवर्ड मूवमेंट कर गया है। तो अभी द्वारका को जो पहले इफेक्ट होने वाली थी वो शायद कम हो। अभी भी हम 80 to 100 किलोमीटर की विंड स्पीड एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं और 8 to 10 इंच रेनफॉल एक्सपेक्ट कर रहे हैं। लेकिन वी आर प्रिपेयर्ड फॉर एवरीथिंग। हमने लोगों को पूरे ज़िले में तकरीबन 4,500 लोगों को शिफ्ट कर दिया है। उनको सेफली शेल्टर होम में रख रहे हैं और एनी काइंड ऑफ इवेंचुअलिटी वी आर रेडी फॉर इट।
साइक्लोन बिपरजॉय की स्थिति से निपटने के लिए हमने राजकोट मंडल में एक इमरजेंसी कंट्रोल रूम ऑफिसर्स के द्वारा मैन किया जा रहा है राउंड द क्लॉक। साथ ही द्वारका, जामनगर और मोरबी में हमने एक मल्टी डिसिप्लिनरी टीम जिसमें सारे डिपार्टमेंट के ऑफिसर शामिल है और एक सीनियर ऑफिसर के नेतृत्व में तैनात की गई है, जिससे कि वो वहाँ पे रिस्टोरेशन का काम देख सके। यात्रियों की सेफ्टी को ध्यान में रखते हुए हमने 36 ट्रेनें पूरी तरह से कैंसिल करी हैं और कुछ ट्रेनों को हमने शॉर्ट टर्मिनेट किया और शॉर्ट ओरिजिनेट किया है, जिससे कि राजकोट ओखा सेक्शन में, क्योंकि हमने राजकोट ओखा और राजकोट पोरबंदर और राजकोट वेरावल सेक्शन में हमने पूरा पैसेंजर ट्रेन और फ्रेट ट्रेन का मूवमेंट अभी बंद कर दिया है।
All right, so the cyclone is set to hit Gujarat tomorrow, and Karthike, the centre as well as the state government doing everything in their power to ensure that the damage caused by the cyclone is minimized. In fact, Home Minister Amit Shah has made it abundantly clear to officials that there should be zero casualties.
You know, Cyclone Biparjoy has a different story to be told. I think that story is not being told to the Indian audience. Cyclone Biparjoy is about climate change. Cyclone Biparjoy is about Arabian Sea warming up. Cyclone Biparjoy is about monsoon getting weakened because of a warm sea. And Cyclone Biparjoy is telling us that if this continues to happen, then we will witness what American East Coast had been witnessing for the last 15 years, where you have number of cyclones coming from the Gulf of Mexico and destroying cities after city. If you recall 10 years ago, the entire Mississippi got flooded. Then entire South Florida got flooded. The Keys were almost invisible in South Florida. Similarly, what's happening in India is now we are also witnessing global warming in a way which is directly affecting our local weather. Arabian Sea was not supposed to be getting warmer like this, but for a temperature difference of 1 degree centigrade, and then for storms like these to be created, it does 3 things here. It destroys our agrarian cycle 1. The second thing it does is that Arabian Sea getting warmer affects our monsoon, which means that it is draining away moisture from the incoming winds, making the El Nino effect more pronounced, and then the water gets wasted. You know, when I'm using the word wasted, you know, the water falls in the sea is not wasted, But imagine that water is not on the land. So what's happening? Why do we have clouds right now in Delhi? Why is Rajasthan having a sort of a moderate temperature in last 48 hours? It is because of the climate change. So people are thinking that this is one-off cyclone. This is not a one-off cyclone. It tells us that we are living in an interconnected world, and this has the potential not to damage infrastructure, but it has the potential to displace local communities from vast coastline of India. Gujarat's coastline is the longest. People think that Andhra Pradesh is the longest coastline. Tamil Nadu will have the longest coastline. The longest coastline state is that of Gujarat. It's because of the shape and size you don't understand. It's like this. So it doesn't look big as Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu and Kerala looks, but Gujarat has the longest coastline, and it has the immense potential to disrupt that rural life in the coast, which is directly dependent on food ecosystem. And lastly, cyclones not only destroy coasts, they also disperse shoals of fish. The cyclones destroy the local fish ecosystem near the coast. It makes it very difficult for people whose life entirely depend on the 1 to 5 kilometers of the sea, from coast to the sea, who do not do fishing. Sea trawlers have met systems installed on their ship. They can take time, they can divert, they can go to calm waters and fish. This means that a lot of people, thousands of people living on the coast don't have livelihood. The restaurant owners, the eatery owners, the tourists, temples, it's zero for them. It's zero economic activity for them. And if you look at these beaches, temporary infrastructure is there. Do you think that this temporary infrastructure is going to survive 100 km/h winds of the Arabian Sea? No, it is not. So yes, as you mentioned in the beginning, I think it has been degraded from extremely serious cyclone to a severe cyclone, but I don't think the problem has gone away. Saurashtra-Kutch, if I am not wrong, parts of northern Maharashtra, and then people forget one fact, that Gujarat is also very prone to flooding. Number of floods in Gujarat are on the higher side.
You're quite right, Karthikeya, in pointing out that, this impacts the people of the state in so many different ways. You're talking about the food ecosystem. You're talking about how livelihoods of, let's say, fishermen get impacted. Gujarat, as you mentioned, has the longest coastal line in the country. Also, a very interesting fact that I came across in my research, Karthikeya, that this will be the third cyclone to hit the state of Gujarat since 1965. But of course, we would like to believe that between the first such cyclone and now, we've come a long way and are hopefully much better prepared to deal with natural catastrophes of this nature?
See, to deal with natural catastrophe is one thing, but another important aspect is that this is not a one-off thing. Neha, this is not a one-off thing. The problem is that when we talk of Cyclone Biparjoy, we are talking about global warming. And the reason why I am saying this again and again is, if you look at the paper, if you look at the readouts, it looks like one-off thing. It looks like a polar blast. It's like when we do coverage of polar blast of West Virginia or Maine or New York, it's like, arey, itta snow gir gaya. It's not about that. It's about the fact that the trade winds are getting affected. It creates a breach in the polar vortex, and the entire east coast of the American subcontinents get deluged with snow. So it's not snow, it's bad. It's not supposed to get deluged like that. So, Rajasthan and us are not supposed to get a weather like this. It is going to affect the lives of poor Indians. I think this is like a red sign. This is the red sign of nature.
I think you've hit the nail on the head, Karthikeya, because, when you talk about global warming and how it's changing our life as we knew it, nobody can forget those horrific floods of Chennai that happened just a few years ago.
I would just like to add one thing. The horrific floods of Chennai, the horrific floods of Srinagar, those were primarily because of built reasons. Because lowlands, marshlands, the gullies and the areas where water was supposed to flow, we built buildings. It's like Bengaluru getting flooded, or Bengaluru
And I hate to sound blasé, but I think the difference between Bengaluru and the other cities is that Bengaluru gets flooded every monsoon.
Why?
So it's a man-made disaster.
It's a man-made disaster. Even the floods in Kashmir was a man-made disaster. Even in Chennai, they didn't allow the water to pass to the sea.
Yeah.
But what is happening in Arabian Sea is not a built disaster. It's a disaster because the surface temperature of oceans have increased. And when you increase the surface temperature, or when the surface temperature of the oceans increase, they create severe cyclones. People used to think that this will only happen in the east coast of America. It's not going to help, impact India. But people forget that American storms which impacted Mississippi, Florida, southern Carolina, it devastated economies to the tune of $7 to $8 billion per cyclone. Imagine that's happening in India. $35 billion?
Yeah.
State governments will go bankrupt.
Absolutely. That's not something that we can afford to deal with, certainly not financially, and certainly not in terms of the sheer volume of damage and loss of life that it is likely to cost. Let's certainly hope and pray that this cyclone passes by without incident, without causing any major damage, and certainly without causing any loss of life. We are keeping our fingers crossed. This cyclone, as we said, is expected to hit this coast of Gujarat tomorrow on the 15th of June. All right, Karthikeyan, let's now shift our focus to the other big story that we are tracking. It's important to talk about it because unfortunately this is something that is happening in state after state in India. Today we are talking about Uttarakhand. Prohibitory orders under Section 144 have been imposed in the hill station of Purola in the Uttarkashi district of Uttarakhand amid communal tensions that erupted over an alleged attempt to kidnap a minor girl last month. The district administration has refused permission now for a Mahapanchayat that had been called for. Uttarakhand Chief Minister Pushkar Singh Dhami last week held a high-level meeting where he claimed cases of so-called love jihad that have been reported will be strictly investigated. How did it all start? On the 26th of May, two men identified as Ubaid Khan and Jitendra Seni allegedly attempted to kidnap a 14-year-old Hindu girl. The two were arrested the following day. Right-wing groups claimed it was a love jihad conspiracy. On the 29th of May, a protest march turned violent after some of the agitators attacked shops belonging to the Muslims. A similar protest was held on the 3rd of June. Posters threatening Muslim traders to shut shops then came up on the 15th of June. Muslim religious leaders in Dehradun have, as I said, called for a Mahapanchayat on the 18th of June to protest what they call increasing targeting of their community. Of course, permission has not been granted so far. Members of the Uttarakhand Waqf Board and the Hajj Committee have also met with Chief Minister Dhami, seeking strict action against those harassing Muslims in Purola town. They submitted a memorandum saying the Muslims living in the state are being hurt, harassed and scared. A peace meet was also held by administrative officials on Monday, but it failed to bring any peace to the town. What is going on here? Karthikeyan, what do you make of this? Okay, before I actually discuss and decode this with Karthikeyan, let's quickly play out a few reactions for our viewers and then I'll take this back to Karthikeyan.
लव जिहाद के जो मामले आए हैं उस पर भी हमने सख्ती से जो है उसकी जांच, सख्ती से उस पर कार्रवाई इसके लिए पहले ही कहा है कि अंदर बहुत बड़ा कोई न कोई मैं कहूं कि एक साजिश है या बहुत सोची समझी रणनीति है जिसके तहत ये हुआ है। लेकिन उत्तराखंड में अब सभी लोग इसमें जागरूक भी हुए हैं और सरकार भी इस पर अब सख्ती से काम करेगी और इसको बिल्कुल आगे बढ़ने नहीं दिया जाएगा।
ये इसके मामलात में मत आओ आप, जो सही कर रहा है कर लें दो, मगर आप कबाब में हड्डी नहीं बनेंगे बल्कि पत्थर बनेंगे। अब आप बोलते लव जिहाद, अच्छा अगर महाराष्ट्र में लव जिहाद हो रहा है तो एक एस्टिमेट दो, नंबर दो कि अहमदनगर में ये हुआ, कोल्हापुर में ये हुआ, सांगली में हुआ, वेस्टर्न महाराष्ट्र में हुआ, मराठवाड़ा में हुआ, बताओ कुछ नहीं है, नहीं लव जिहाद हो रहा है, कहां हो रहा है?
पिछले कुछ वर्षों से जिस तरह से देवभूमि उत्तराखंड को दैत्य भूमि बनाने में ये जिहादी समुदाय सक्रिय है अपनी पहचान बदल करके, अपना नाम छुपा करके, अपने क्राइम छुपा करके और क्रिमिनल रिकॉर्ड छुपा करके, और जिस तरह से उत्तराखंड को बदनाम करने में लगा हुआ है, उत्तराखंड के लोगों को परेशान करने में लगा हुआ है, वहाँ की अस्मिता, उसकी संस्कृति और उसके ऐतिहासिक मानबिंदुओं की पर कुठाराघात करने में लगा हुआ है, उससे लेकर के वो देवभूमि के लोग बड़े आक्रोशित हैं, आंदोलित हैं, परेशान हैं। इसी को लेकर के समुदाय ने तय किया कि भाई अब जो है लगातार हमारे सामने सामने बेटियों को उठा लिया जाता है, हमारे सामने सामने वो जिहादी उठा करके और लफ्ज़ात कर जाते हैं, हमारे सामने सामने मंदिरों पर हमले हो जाते हैं, हमारे सामने सामने बेटियों का अपहरण हो जाता है, महिलाओं का अपहरण हो जाता है। तो ऐसी सब स्थितियाँ से अभी तक जो है ना वहाँ का स्थानीय समुदाय जो है परेशान था, रिपोर्ट कर रहा था, लेकिन कहीं ना कहीं जो है ना जब वो शासन प्रशासन का भी बहुत ज़्यादा उनको सहयोग नहीं मिल पाया, तो समाज ने तय किया कि भाई हम अब महापंचायत करेंगे।
होता जो भी है वो कर सकते हैं, बट कानून में, कानून की व्यवस्था में कोई बाधा नहीं होना चाहिए। और इस संबंध में डिस्ट्रिक्ट एडमिनिस्ट्रेशन लगातार मीटिंग वगैरह कर रहे हैं। हमारा प्रयास ये रहा है कि भाई जो भी है शांति बनाए रखें, और किसी वर्ग के खिलाफ का कोई नारा, कोई हेट स्पीच या जो भी होता है, फिर वो उसको तत्काल एफआईआर रजिस्टर होगा, तत्काल कार्रवाई की जाएगी, कानूनी कार्रवाई जो हमारे बाध्यता है उसकी तरफ से।
Okay. Kartiki, there are a couple of things about this story that immediately struck me. One is that there is a Muslim man and there is a Hindu man.
Correct.
Both of whom have been accused of kidnapping this young girl belonging to the Hindu community. They were both subsequently arrested. And yet, the right-wing Hindu groups are labeling this love jihad, which, to my mind, suggests that they're really not looking at the involvement of the Hindu boy. They seem to be focusing on the Muslim man. Also, when something like this occurs, the first thing that the administration needs to do is to really pour oil over the troubled waters. But here, the Chief Minister, after presiding over a meeting, immediately says, love jihad is not acceptable, will not be tolerated. All cases of love jihad will be thoroughly investigated. This before we even know the full facts of the case.
See, there are a couple of things. Love jihad is a word which has been devised by BJP and its affiliates as an electoral tool. So whether we talk about love jihad, election jihad, land jihad, food jihad, it's a politicized word. And it has nothing to do with the jihad problem which the West Asia witnessed because of, anyway, for the ignorance, because of the American intervention which led to breakdown of multiple states. It's like who helped the theocracy in Saudi Arabia? The Americans did that. So the sort of internationalization of Wahhabi jihadism was also a result of direct American help to them to create a sort of a green corridor to absorb or stop the red corridor in the 60s. Like very few people would know that Sayyid Qutb was taken by CIA to America to be taught, and he came back revolted against the Western civilization. Saying that, the official copy is that the girl was abducted. It was not a marriage proposal.
Yes.
And it was an assault by Ubaid Khan and Jitendra Saini. For me, they are neither Hindu or Muslim, they are criminals. Absolutely. Because they tried to abduct a minor.
Yes.
They should be tried under POSCO. If they had raped her, molested her, assaulted her, severe punishment should be meted out to them. So this cannot be a case of love jihad, that's number one. It was not an attempt to fool a person, get that person to marry you and then change the religion. Secondly, you see what is happening is, we have to understand that Uttarakhand is getting depopulated over a period of time. प्रधानमंत्री जी ने खुद ही बोला था एक अपनी इलेक्शन की रैली में कि उत्तराखंड का पानी और उत्तराखंड की जवानी उत्तराखंड के काम नहीं आती. And then many people repeated it. What it means is that if you dam the rivers in Uttarakhand, the electricity goes out and the people leave Uttarakhand for the jobs. Men, basically, the women stay back and men leave. Where do they go? They serve Indian Army. They serve, majority of them are security forces. Some become journalists, some become businessmen, but they don't go back because except tourism, running shops or ecotourism, there is not much of industrial opportunity. So what happens when that space is vacated? Where is Uttarakhand? It's next to Rampur. Rampur has a lot of Muslim population. So people migrate. What happened in Mussoorie? People thought that most of the Ghodewalas are Muslims. So they bashed a lot of them. Later they realized half of them were Hindus. क्योंकि वो भी घोड़े चला रहे थे. For me, the larger issue is of bias. There is no doubt that attempts have been made in past to convert women. You have laws for that. But to target
look for a Kerala story everywhere.
But to not only a Kerala story, but to target a community, saying that you have been coming there. Where are they coming from? They are coming from China. Where do they live? Where is Rampur? Where is Rampur? Rampur is next to Uttarakhand. What are they doing? They are buying land or running shops. Who are your mechanics? Who is the mixie maker? Who does your tire? Most of them are Muslims, apprentice. So if that work is available in Uttarakhand, where will that person go? That was not the case in 80s. People stopped doing that work. I understand that Uttarakhand has a special sensibility because most of a lot of important religious centers, especially Vaishnavite and Saivite centers, are in Uttarakhand post Shankaracharya. So that is why it's called Devabhumi, Hari ke Dwar, Haridwar. Understandable that Uttarakhand will always have a special place because it's supposed to be abode of gods. That is not even that is not even reserved for Himachal Pradesh. That thing is also not reserved for Jammu and Kashmir, Himalayan states, not even for Darjeeling and Sikkim, but for Uttarakhand. But the point is that there has to be an end to such controversies. Because these are manufactured controversy, and this is not the first time the Chief Minister is doing it. He did this in middle of the assembly election, and he said that a lot of Muslims are getting settled in Uttarakhand. So let us amend the Indian constitution that the right of free movement should only be reserved for Hindus. Right of free movement should not be reserved for Muslims,
and this
Christians,
is also somebody who has said we will bring uniform civil code.
Right of free movement. See, uniform civil code is a different debate. You can have a uniform civil code, that's okay. But right of free movement and your right to livelihood will only be reserved for Hindus. They should not be reserved for Muslims, Christians, Jews, Sikhs and Parsis. What is the illegality in the movement of people in buying land? Either you say you cannot buy land. Any Indian can buy land anywhere.
I mean, especially after abrogation of Article 370, where even in Kashmir, those restrictions don't exist anymore, to then have those artificial lines drawn between Indians in another part of the country.
So if people are migrating out, so they are migrating in. So certain populated areas are also getting depopulated. Na? They are not wonderful opportunities available for every Muslim in Rampur. I don't think that Rampur is the hottest industrial belt in this country. I don't think it offers hottest jobs in this country. It's neither Indore nor Mumbai of India. So people will migrate out. When people can migrate from Bihar and go to Punjab to till land, when people from East Uttar Pradesh can go to South Karnataka and do landed job. So that is what didn't the Sikh population migrate to Canada? What were they doing? Did they create an industrial belt? They became the farmers there. How come Indian Sikhs are associated with Parmesan making in Italy? Because there was a report in one of the most read newspapers that the Italians don't want to make Parmesan the hard way, which is by using their hand. It's a hard job. So apne to Sikh boys are making the good Parmesans which we are eating in India. Why? Because jobs are available. So I think love jihad is a political tool. If there is an issue of conversion, then our constitution says that there is a law to deal with it. You take the guy there, but this is a case of abduction. How can abduction be a case of love conversion?
So you were saying that the Chief Minister is brazenly playing the communal card?
I am saying that the Chief Minister is brazenly playing a card which is very, very divisive.
Very divisive and
it's
dangerous.
It's a very, very divisive. And I think when Chief Minister says that this is love jihad, it should be substantiated in multiple ways. That how many cases of love jihad have taken place. You see, my point is that Chief Minister is guardian of every community in this country. Now, Chief Minister doesn't need to be partisan. I'm not saying just because the guy is a minority should be defended. Arey chodo jane do. That sort of woke politics I do not agree to, because ultimately it creates a very strong majoritarian response. This has been witnessed in UK and America, where the middle America felt lost. That is why Trump came up with let's make America great again, because a lot of people in Silicon Valley were exporting jobs because they wanted to have greater returns, and Americans felt disempowered. So we all understand that majority community, just because it's majority, shouldn't lose its voice in the political system. It should be the anchor of the political system. It should be the anchor of the political system.
But a Chief Minister cannot be the Chief Minister of just the Hindus.
But to say, my point is even more different. Just to say कि ये लोग बहुत ज़्यादा यहाँ आ गए हैं. That is my point. कहाँ आ गए, किधर से आ गए भाई, अपने देश में ही तो घूम रहे हैं,
अपना ही तो देश है. And final thoughts on this, Kartikeya, before we wrap up this discussion and move on to the next story. We know that this menace is not confined to the state of Uttarakhand. I personally find it absolutely heartbreaking that during Navratras, when you have Garba happening in the state of Gujarat, since time immemorial, you've had the two communities mingling with each other, enjoying festivities and celebrating festivals together. But now you have a situation where if Muslim boys enter a venue where Garba is taking place, there are instantly allegations of love jihad. There have been instances where they have been told you will not be allowed entry because you belong to the Muslim community.
See, my point is
what
that
kind of divide are we?
My point is that love jihad is a political tool. If there is an issue of conversion, there is a law to deal with it. My point is very, very simple. You have a law to deal with. Send that man to jail. Send his entire family to jail if they have connived, deceived a girl, tried to convert her. Send her to jail. No, I mean to say, I have no compassion for that. But in context of Uttarakhand, I am saying that the report says that Ubaid Khan and Jitendra Saini allegedly attempted to abduct a 14-year-old girl. And specifically, I am saying this in this context. It's a case of abduction and not love jihad.
Exactly.
मैं अभी तो बात को फैला ही नहीं रहा हूं, मैं कह रहा हूं ये केस तो लव जिहाद का नहीं, अबडक्शन का केस है. और अगर आपको लगता है कि वहां एक कम्युनिटी को ज्यादा लैंड खरीदने और माइग्रेट होने की इजाजत नहीं है, तो आप कानून बना दीजिए. कहने का मतलब है कानून भी नहीं बनाएंगे और बार बार आप चीफ मिनिस्टर होके बात बोलेंगे भाई ये ऐसा हो रहा है, तो फिर आप मुख्यमंत्री का बात कहें. You are the custodian of law and law does not discriminate, and a chief minister should be like Caesar's wife. Neither you should discriminate, neither you should come across discriminating.
Absolutely. And I think what's really sad here is that before even the full facts of the case were known, the chief minister is resorting to a dog whistle, something that of course was completely avoidable. All right, let's now move on to another big story that we're tracking here on News9, and this story is from the state of Tamil Nadu. It's actually great news for the students of Tamil Nadu. Why is that? Well, the National Testing Agency has released the NEET undergraduate results, and it turns out that 6 of the top 10 ranks have been secured by candidates from the state of Tamil Nadu. Last year, 2 candidates from the state made it to this elite league. This year, with 6 candidates in the top ranks, it marks Tamil Nadu's highest tally ever, trailing only behind Delhi with 8 candidates and Rajasthan with 7. A massive improvement given that in 2019 and 2021, Tamil Nadu did not have any representation among the top 50 ranks. But why are we talking about this? Why is this politically significant? It is because since 2017, Tamil Nadu has been actively striving to exempt itself from the NEET exam. Not allowing NEET was the electoral promise of the ruling party, the DMK. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin has played a pivotal role in introducing a bill in the State Assembly last year, which advocated exemption of Tamil Nadu students from NEET. And guess what? This bill received unanimous support from all political parties in the state of Tamil Nadu, but hasn't received the president's assent yet. Now, Tamil Nadu's political parties have been claiming that NEET aggravates inequalities by placing rural students at a disadvantage because of the financial constraints they face in accessing coaching as compared to their urban counterparts. A 9-member panel was set up by the state government to evaluate the influence of NEET on medical admissions, and it discovered a decline in the proportion of rural students enrolled in Tamil Nadu's medical colleges. But the question is, does that argument still hold any water? Before I discuss this with Kartikeya, let's listen in to some reactions that have come in.
See, congratulations to all the top rank getters, but what we have to see is what coaching class they have gone to. See, no way we are undermining their achievement, but this is just to highlight that however brilliant you may be, you need that coaching class to crack NEET. Why is he not speaking about the coaching class? Why is he not revealing the fact that these students topped it, aced it after attending coaching classes? Our only point, our only objection to NEET is also this, that only people with money, people who have access to coaching classes, people in urban areas, they'll be able to crack NEET. So this is once again proved that whoever attends a coaching class, whether he's from urban area or a rural area, he is able to crack NEET, not everybody else.
தமிழகம் நேற்று பெருமை அடைந்திருக்கிறது. நம்முடைய நீட்டு பரீட்சை மூலமாக தமிழகத்திற்கு இந்திய அளவிலே ஒரு மாபெரும் பெருமையை நம்முடைய மாணவ செல்வங்கள் தேடி கொடுத்திருக்கின்றார்கள். ஆல் இந்தியா டாப்பராக பிரபஞ்சன் ஜே மாணவ செல்வன் நம் அனைவருக்கும் கூட தமிழக மக்களுக்கு மிகப்பெரிய பெருமையை தேடி கொடுத்திருக்கின்றார்கள். அதே போல முதல் 10 ரேங்க் பிரபஞ்சன் வந்து 720க்கு 720 99.99% வாங்கி ஒரு பெரிய சாதனை நிகழ்த்தி இருக்கின்றார். முதல் 10 பேர்ல 4 பேர் தமிழகத்திலிருந்து வந்திருப்பது மிகப்பெரிய சிறப்பு. முதல் 50 ரேங்க்ல 6 பேர் தமிழகத்திலிருந்து வந்திருக்காங்க. இது குறிப்பாக நீட்டு பரீட்சையை எதிர்க்கக்கூடிய தமிழகத்தில் இருக்கக்கூடிய எல்லா அரசியல் கட்சிகளுக்கும் கூட மறுபடியும் ஒரு முறை நீட்டு பரீட்சை உணர்த்தி இருக்கிறது. இது ரொம்ப டிரான்ஸ்பரண்டாக நடுநிலைமையாக எல்லா மாணவ செல்வங்களுடைய கனவுகளை அவர்கள் மெய்ப்பட வைப்பதற்கு நீட் எக்ஸாம் வந்து ஒரு ஆப்பர்ச்சுனிட்டியை கொடுக்குது. அதனால் மறுபடியும் நம்முடைய தமிழக மக்களுக்கு அன்போடு பாரதிய ஜனதா கட்சி சார்பாக நாங்கள் தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கின்றோம். நீட்டு பரீட்சை என்பது தமிழக மாணவ செல்வங்கள் அனைவருமே ஏற்றுக்கொண்டு விட்டார்கள். அனைவருமே அதில் இப்போ பெர்ஃபார்ம் பண்ண ஆரம்பிச்சிட்டாங்க. குறிப்பாக ஏழை மாணவர்கள், குறிப்பாக தந்தை தாய் விவசாயிகளாக இருக்கக்கூடிய அவர்களுடைய குழந்தைகள் நீட்டு பரீட்சையில் நமக்கு பெருமை தேடி கொடுத்துட்டு கொண்டிருக்காங்க. அதனால் நீட்டு டிபேட் அப்படிங்கிறது இந்த வருஷத்தோடு நம்ம நிறுத்திட்டு இன்னையிலிருந்து புதுசாக வேற ஏதாச்சும் நம்ம பேசுவோம். மறுபடியும் நீட் என்பதை கொண்டு வந்து இதை நீட்டை பற்றி பேசுவது எந்த விதமான பிரயோஜனமும் இல்லை என்பது இந்த வருஷத்திற்கான மாணவ செல்வங்கள் நமக்கு ஒரு பெரிய பாடத்தை புகட்டி இருக்கின்றார்கள்.
All right. You know, as I said, Karthikeya, this is great news actually for Tamil Nadu, but it would almost seem, and I'm amused by the thought, that is not such great news for the politicians of Tamil Nadu, because, you know, a big chunk of their politics in the last few years has been centered around their opposition to NEET, saying, oh, it is so discriminatory to our students. But look at this, the students of Tamil Nadu are setting new records. 6 of the top 10 come from the state.
Now the state of Tamil Nadu will need to decide how will they accommodate the students. One, the original opposition to the NEET was that a lot of politicians in Tamil Nadu thought that it's discriminatory in context of rural urban students. They felt that the rural students do not have access to funds, so they don't get coaching and they will not make it to the colleges. And
they also talked about the language barrier.
And they felt that a lot of urban students will get in. But then, you know, we have to also factor in that Indian education system, unlike the Western European and the North American education system, has somehow spawned, I wouldn't use mafia the word, but it has, you know, it has become coaching school dependent. If you look at the ads in newspapers of last 5 years, you'll be surprised that instead of seeing Mukesh Ambani or Gautam Adani or Ratan Tata, you'll find some coach at the top and the 15 students who have made it to the IIT, IIM and NEET. So these people have become the new rock stars. And when I say new rock stars, these people have become the custodian, owners, manufacturers, producers of the human resource content, which is
Byju's, great example,
which is available in the
country. Seen as a big success story.
And a lot of people say that they have been able to up the quality of the people who gets interviewed, but they have created sort of a clone answers. So it becomes very difficult for people to distinguish between talent and someone who has crammed up things. I'm just saying this in context of NEET because now there is an oversupply of talent in Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu will now need to decide how to absorb these students, one. Secondly, one thing is to do well in exam and another thing is to find a vocation. So what are the challenges for a state where maximum students do well? Where do they go? How will they be absorbed? Can everyone become a doctor, engineer? I'm saying generically. So NEET, apart from a language issue, is also an issue of management of aspirations. What do they, like when you travel across Europe, you find, you know, in India you have gardeners, but then you have this gardener in somewhere in Belgium who does only small plants. You know, he has a status in the society. हमारे यहाँ बोलेंगे माली है, चाहे कितना भी बढ़िया हो. Or the shoemakers in Spain. So
dignity of labor.
Dignity of labor.
Which seems very different.
So our problem is that we don't have dignity of labor and we do not appreciate that certain, for example, there was a very famous film called The Tailor of Panama. So I mean to say, there are things which are done by hand and it enjoys a lot of dignity. Now, when we produce so many brilliant students through an exam for a different vocation, how do we absorb them? Where do we absorb them? Where do we keep them, or should they migrate to CIS countries, take those degrees, come back and not accommodate it?
Kartikeya, how so many of our students landed up in war-torn Ukraine at the time when war erupted, because most of them were medical students, and one would assume that they had to go to Ukraine to study medicine because they were finding it extremely difficult to find avenues in this country.
So I think the problem of NEET is not only of plenty, it is of how to absorb and direct that plenty in our national mainstream. I think today Tamil Nadu, they will be very, very happy that they have done well, but they also need to understand that why, what they are supposed to do with this talent, one. Secondly, what about their ideological opposition to it, and third, whether they will be changing it or not.
I think that is really, really interesting, and I personally would love to see how the political parties of Tamil Nadu, including the ruling DMK, actually play their NEET politics going forward, given how stupendously well the students have performed this time round. All right, now staying with news from the state of Tamil Nadu, here's another story that has been grabbing headlines since last night. What are we talking about? Tamil Nadu Minister V. Senthil Balaji is at the center of a political storm. Chief Minister M.K. Stalin and at least 15 ministers rushed to see him after he was hospitalized following his arrest by the Enforcement Directorate in an old money laundering case. Now, the visit of the Chief Minister and other top DMK leaders clearly shows the clout that the DMK leader from Karur enjoys in his party. Senthil is said to be the architect of DMK's win in Western Tamil Nadu. A four-time MLA, the arrest of Senthil has made the DMK raise the issue of federalism once again. The DMK says it will face this issue legally and has caused the arrest unconstitutional. DMK leader and Health Minister Ma Subramaniam said Senthil was being targeted by the BJP and the AIDMK as he ensured the loss of some of the top leaders of these parties in Western Tamil Nadu, especially Annamalai. All right, Kartikeya, this has become a huge story. We saw the dramatic visuals, first of the arrest of the minister, the minister then breaking down, copiously shedding tears. Then he is hospitalized. Next thing you know, the doctor says he needs a bypass surgery. And now, of course, you have this politics playing out between the centre and the DMK, where all sorts of issues, including those pertaining to federalism, being raised.
I think there are two issues. The first issue is that whether it's a case of corruption or not. I'm not a person for Enforcement Directorate, but 90% plus cases of Enforcement Directorate have targeted leaders of opposition. Then the next question can be, well, UP also did it. Yes, UPA did it. Only 60% of the cases were targeted towards the opposition leaders. 40% were to the rest. It increased by 30%, so it's 90-10. But he's the electricity minister. He also. Now, 3 days ago, where Amit Shah was campaigning, suddenly the electricity went out.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are saying कि ईंट का जवाब पत्थर से मिला है इनको.
Electricity चली गई, अमित शाह की रैली में तो अरेस्ट हो गया मिनिस्टर का.
I'm saying कि the joke on the net is ईंट का जवाब पत्थर से मिला है. Now, that's the narrative on the net. The seriousness of the issue is that BJP has decided to take on DMK in a way which DMK is not doing. We have to understand that this case of money laundering pertains to the date when he was in a different party. He was not in this party. He was in a different party. That is why ADMK is silent on this issue. And it is for this reason that BJP thinks that with Annamalai, they can at least try to become an opposition party. So the row over Senthil's arrest is less to do about Mr. Senthil himself. It is more to do with the fact, that the Bharatiya Janata Party has decided to make corruption an issue in Tamil Nadu. You see, if you look at the prosecution cases and other things, it doesn't, we all know how many cases gets prosecuted or successfully done under ED. That's besides the point. But there's a politics behind it. I'll restrict myself to the politics, not to the nitty-gritty of the case. The politics is BJP has decided to position itself in a certain way, and it's becoming very, very evident in the state of Tamil Nadu.
It is becoming evident in the state of Tamil Nadu, and I guess this accusation that the centre is once again targeting an opposition party was inevitable. How is this story going to play out? We will have to wait and find out. Okay, Karthikeyan, now we are moving on to my personal favorite story on the show. Why is this my favorite story? You will find out in the next couple of minutes. This is a story that could confuse you, it could make you angry, or it could make you laugh out loud, depending on how you see it. The Residents Welfare Association of a housing society in Greater Noida in Uttar Pradesh has urged its residents to be mindful of their attire when in common areas such as parks. The circular that was issued on the 10th of June by the Himsagar Apartment RWA says the residents must not step out of their flats wearing lungis or nighties. Yes, you heard that right. No lungis or nighties in public spaces, says this housing society. Why? Because apparently this would make the other residents uncomfortable. Well, needless to say, the notice has received widespread criticism online for its attempt to police people's personal choices, and it has raised many laughs as well. One user said, "I'm sorry, this is not inclusive. They needed to ban cartoon printed boxer shorts masquerading as sportswear too." Another one wrote, "Yet another instance of RWA acting as a car panchayat." Someone else wrote, "Does freedom of expression not include sartorial expression?" And then somebody who seemed to be completely exasperated said, "These issues don't amuse me anymore. We are a society with weird priorities."
नोटिस में हमने लोगों से अनुरोध किया था कि कुछ लोगों की शिकायतें आई हैं कि कुछ लोग पूरा ड्रेस में ढंग से नहीं बैठते, तो हमने लोगों को ये रिक्वेस्ट किया कि आप लुंगी या जो रात घर में कपड़े पहनते हैं उनको बाहर पहन के ना विचरण करें, और उसमें हमें किसी के बारे में कोई उल्टा सीधा कहने का कोई विचार नहीं था हमारा।
No lungi, no nighty, says this housing society. Karthikeyan, I am not going to tell you if I roam around my society in a nighty, but I definitely want to ask you, let me put you on the spot. Would you walk around your house and let's say go to the neighboring park wearing a lungi?
See, first of all, I am going to write a letter to Thalaivar. Secondly, I think it's slightly culturally in poor taste, because if you go to West Bengal, if you go to parts of Andhra Pradesh, lungi is something which has been inherited from various customs. Like for example, the lungis which you find people wearing in Hyderabad is a Yemeni custom. That's one. You find people wearing lungi in West Bengal. Then you have the dhoti. Then you will have to differentiate between a Bengali dhoti and Uttar Pradesh ki dhoti. And if Bengali dhoti looks like lungi and someone takes an objection to the fact that, you know, this is my night dress, I think this residential society or the governing body of this residential society will be in trouble. And lastly, I think these, you know, I find it very funny, but then all over the world you have these funny laws. You know, there's a funny law in Singapore, because buildings are made so close to each other that, you know, you should not be be seen naked from the other building, even if you are inside your house. So you know, if someone finds you, you know, running around in your underwear from the next building, you can actually be fined in Singapore for, and that would constitute nudity. And I'm not saying he's naked. That's nudity. Okay. So, you know, such rules do exist, so I am not surprised. But that's about an underwear, or that's about people in their private clothes. But in this context, I find it silly, because lungi is part of cultural tradition in many states, that's one. And I think nighty is a bit of a modern phenomena. I think it's like even more Victorian in the way, which has been absorbed by our Indian middle class. And if women are comfortable in their nighties, boss, take your gaze somewhere else. You
know what amused me the most? Maybe it should have infuriated me as a woman. One man in that society actually said, Karthikeyan, you know, women walking around in nighties would make men uncomfortable. And I really want to say, that's the men's problem, not the women's problem.
Absolutely.
So I think you're absolutely right in pointing out that one, Thalaivar will not be happy and amused if he hears this, and two, maybe one perfect solution to this problem is that the entire RWA society, in my view, should be made to watch Shah Rukh Khan and Deepika Padukone's Lungi dance, which happens to be one of my favorite tracks in recent years from Bollywood movies. Well, we are completely out of time. Thank you so much, Karthikeyan, for your perspective on all those big trending stories of the day. Hope you enjoyed watching this show as much as we enjoyed bringing it to you. With that, it's a wrap. Thanks for watching.
will